welcome yet again to our Civic Space TV conversation on the Uganda diaspora. I'm glad to see we have Karim Muntambi of National Unity Platform. We have Albert Bakasara. We have Francis Kamhanda, our usual partners in conversation. Miriam Chamgasho as well. Dr. Chisambira is set to join us. He told me a few minutes ago that he was called to the table. By that, I mean he's in the operating room. So, but he will join us shortly once he's done. And today we are going to look at very interesting conversations, very interesting developments. Importantly, we are going to look at the recently concluded the Uganda, North America, yes, UNA in short, that recently happened and how that went. But importantly, I want us to look at what is becoming a very well, it's a common occurrence, but it is becoming a little bit more. It is mutating into something I'm yet to understand, which is a internal political drama, as I want to term it. But it is something that is brewing in all the parties as we prepare for the 2026 general elections. We saw what happened in the National Unity Platform. What is still happening? That is, we shall dive in. What happened with the NRM primaries, and of course, their internal. Democracies are being questioned. But I want to welcome yet again you, ladies and gentlemen, to the show and to ask that maybe if you have any news that you would like to share with us before we can start. I begin with you, Albert. What's cooking? What's brewing? What's happening? What can you share with us today?
Thank you, Lynn, and good morning. Good morning, fellow panelists. Not really. We are a few months into the administration now, and yeah, this is expected. Everything that is happening is not a surprise. To his credit, the president is doing exactly what he campaigned on. So there you can say, hey, there's no surprise. There are no surprises. Other than that, we're pushing on with life. Of course, some of these changes are affecting us directly and indirectly. But that's the course of life. It's happening all over the world. So we are not complaining. We'll go through it.
Right.
Personally, the kids have gone back to school this week. So it was the first day or week of school. Yeah. So like, again, life rolls on.
You know,
Life rolls on. But I'm glad to be here, and I look forward to engaging in the conversation. Good
all
topics.
right.
Good topics.
There were talks that your president, and when I say your president, I mean Donald Trump, was revising the Department of Defense?
Yes, it will be. It will be the Department of War.
Yeah. Wow. 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 All right. Francis, let's hear from Francis and see what's up.
Insulin and other Karim, Albert. Always nice having them on the show. I have no much to say apart from saying I'm always listening to news. Almost the whole world is on tension, wars everywhere, and even new wars being bred. You see, like it's a total confusion. But I think as a people, we can do better if we look at peaceful means of resolving differences that may exist there. And I think if all leaders work towards that, I think we can make the world a better place for everyone to live in. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Francis. Karim, what's cooking your end?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to see everyone again, and also Mr. Bakasar. It's been a while. Um, I would say nothing much. Like Bakasara said, yeah, in these two things are normal. Kids are back to school.
Yeah.
I think the only interesting thing about kids going back to school, there is this new DC policy that they started this semester, which is called bell to bell phone policy. So kids in middle school and high school should not be having their cell phones from 8 o'clock in the morning to I think 3 p.m. when they get out. So it's a pilot project, and they are trying to see whether that policy can help kids start interactions, because there has been instances when kids are out of class and everyone is glued on the phone. So it's geared towards creating social cohesion where kids can interact with each other, and also complaints don't just go back and forth from kid to parent. They want them to take a loss. In case you have not passed the class, you have to wait until you get back home to report to your parent, and figure out how that works. So it's an interesting development, and we shall be monitoring how the program goes.
Hi there. Nice to see you guys. And Lynn, how is Kampala? It's also nothing eventful here, which is good. I mean, it's been a roller coaster of stuff all this year. So when nothing much happens, you're happy at least, yeah, because you don't know how it's gonna happen. Um, and the weather has changed. It's cooling down, which is good. And yeah, and I'm watching. Actually, I think the most interesting stuff now is in Kampala, watching the party primaries, the election turmoil going on, and it's a bit disappointing,
Yeah.
given the status where other countries are. I mean, democratically, we should be at a better level, but that's not happening. So there we are.
We are trying, I think. I don't know, but I want to think we are. However, the annual Ugandan Ambassadors Conference is started sometime, I think, this week in Gulu City. They're having an annual ambassadors conference, and in that conference, Afande Sale urged called for alignment of Uganda's diplomacy with national interests at annual ambassadors conference. And then another interesting development is that President Museveni has urged diaspora to register, yeah, and promises new Uganda Investment Authority role for inclusion. So there's a lot brewing here. We have a new traffic center in Kampala under KCCA. It has unveiled East Africa's first traffic control center in Kampala. And I'm glad, yeah, we have quite interesting developments there. So today I want us to begin with the UNA conference or convention that recently ended. There were quite a number of developments there that I have picked from what went down between the 28th of August and 1st of September. And we saw, and for me, really, what stood out for me is that we are seeing the role of soft power diplomacy, where we are not only focusing on what our foreign leaders or foreign embassies or foreign uh, uh, policy and of course our international relations policies are doing, but we're also trying to change the narrative. I saw that coffee, fashion, tourism were at the center of this UNA convention, and so because apparently we are trying to increase Uganda's coffee footprint in the US, then it was a fusion of coffee and couture. So from that is from my angle, but I'd love to hear from you how it went, and I'll begin with you, Albert Bakasara. What are your thoughts about the recently concluded UNA convention?
Um, Thank you so much, Lynn. So actually, I did miss an opportunity when you asked me about what is going on in our community. We, on a sad note, we lost two community members Uh, I don't mean to dampen the mood, but especially the lady Jacqueline Carole, really a pillar of our DMV community. She's always willing to volunteer at community events, support this and that. It's really a great loss. So the community is in mourning, and another gentleman, Mr. Kiwanuka, also died. These are young people, by the way. This woman just left kids, young kids. So we really don't know what is happening, and she died at home just out of nowhere, just in her husband's arms, basically.
Oh dear.
So I know. So we were there last night, and we'll be there. We'll stand with our friend Michael, and it's really the community is devastated. So I guess I didn't mention that. I didn't want us to start on a somber mode, but that's there. And then on the flip side of that. We are excited as the Toro community. Our princess was appointed tourism ambassador to the US. So there's a platform here. There's a good community, and she's also a member of this community anyway. She lives here in Dallas, Texas. So we'll see if that actually rejuvenates the efforts that you were talking about with the other ambassadors and being asked to align their work with that of the president. And I guess we'll get to talk more about that. But I think um, it's going to come out of those little efforts than the ones that are being directed from State House. Uh, so, as for UNA, I did not attend UNA, but of course we follow the news, and we have UNA people, and those who went came back and gave reports. Um, the report is the convention was not that heavily attended, and that's expected under the circumstances we're in. And it's not like somehow our community are lawbreakers or anything. It's not none of that. It's just that people don't want to deal with. No one wants an interaction with law enforcement, whether you have done something wrong or not. Okay, it's never a pleasant interaction, especially in these times. So when people thought of that, they could be harassed, they could be this and that. A whole bunch of people decided not to go for that reason. I had my other reasons, but I know a whole bunch of people who are UNA fixtures who are always there. This time they say, you know what, I'm staying put. Um, and people did. So that was that. Other than that, I mean, I looked at the pages. The event was nicely organized. There's nothing new about UNA. I mean, we've been throwing an annual party for 30 years, so we've become experts in that. Um, the other exercise of registration that you talked about was there, and as a matter of fact, they started here in Washington D.C. and they got a good turnout, and then ended up going to UNA. I think that's an important exercise, and it went on well. At least the one that I went to the embassy, I saw them with my own eyes. I saw what they were doing. It was very efficient. The people were very professional, and no one asked, no one was harassed, no one was asked about their political affiliations, none of us. So it was really done very nicely, and I was there, and I thank the director and the staff that came. It was really a good service for our community. So I hope that extended to, I know that extended to the convention in New Orleans, and I hope our people took advantage of that, those who could. My understanding is that the machines are going to be left behind at the embassy here, so people can um, come and do those applications and finish that process. As for the president injecting himself in this, some of these things State House should stay out. But then again, he hasn't listened to other people. Why would would he listen to me? But if they want this exercise to actually work well, the State House should stay out of it. And then let's be fair. This is the president who is literally putting out a communique saying, "Do not pay my staff to come see me." So it's an indication that he himself knows that his staff, the people close to him, are rotten eggs. So why would he want them to be the people managing a project that is so essential for Ugandans that he thinks this project is going to, well, we know that this project is going to um, um, give us a connection back to Uganda. allow people to legally own property as the law requires. So this is really an important project. So I would beg that the state house politics, crooked politics, I may add, they stay out of this exercise. We will be more than happy to advertise it as community activists and leaders. We will give it credibility, and we did. And, these guys here can testify. And people come because people do listen to maybe not many, but people do listen when you talk and you have a group of people who believe in your word and you have built that credibility, they will come. But we do not want this state house to be involved in this process. It's really an important process for us. I'll stop there. Like I said, I did not attend UNAA this year. I had some family obligations, and then I didn't go to New Orleans. But from everything I had, the convention went on. And again, that's not a surprise because the organization has put on these parties for a long time. Have we lived up to our potential? That's always the question. And no, we have not. Um, I was, I heard they did not have an election because every position was unopposed. I don't think that's a good thing for our organization. Usually, when that happens, and it has happened a couple of times, I think 2015 was one of those times. When that happens, it means people have given up on the organization. They don't care. They don't want to come. It's like you can do it. So this time it was so bad that they decided not to even hold elections. I think that was a mistake, whether the positions were unopposed or not, because the UNA Constitution does not provide for an unelected leaders. So if you don't hold an election, you don't have elected leaders. But then again, that's being legalistic. But we, as Ugandans, especially living here in this place, we need to start following rules. We cannot always just work on these ad hoc rules. We have a constitution. We should follow it. If they say in elections, yeah. If you think that, yeah, even if you put the ballot box there and two people put it in, at least it's an election. You fulfill the constitutional requirement. So that's, and then of course, they have not been able to do what the constitution requires. I mean, the executive, the leaders, and the council that I used to serve long time ago, they have not fulfilled the requirement of announcing 4 convention cities in advance, because that was really the idea to take politics out of UNA and the scheming and all the things that we thought were dividing our community. This idea that you take the election where you think, oh, we're taking it to Boston because they never take it to Boston, but they'll take it to a small city where they think they have an advantage. So it's like they're picking their voters. Oh, we'll take it here because people cannot come here. Like right now, it was in New Orleans. New Orleans doesn't even have a vibrant Ugandan community. I don't even know. I actually don't even know any Ugandan who live in New Orleans. But that's where they took it because they can drive easily from there. But this time there was not a competitive election anyway. But to eliminate that, we had asked that they put 4 cities on the plate and then every year add on a city. Because it could be easy that you can manipulate the elections of next year, but it's very hard to manipulate a city, the dynamics of a city 5 years from now. And that would have resolved that problem. So, so I'll stop there. I thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Albert, for that. I see Dr. Chisembe has joined us. Doctor, you're welcome. But we are trying to look at what happened or what transpired at the recently concluded UNA convention in New Orleans. I want to speak. I saw something. They said that they launched the Trade Investment and Technology Advancement Network Forum during the UNA convention. Miriam, I come to you. What do you make of this? Albert has hinted on the fact that, I mean, it has become routine. People are losing interest. It doesn't seem to be making headway at all. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, like Albert said, I mean, UNA is a small, but I don't want to call it small. It's big given the regional and the population it covers. And it's politically active internally, really like within. So I don't mean political like the partisan politics of Uganda, but politically within its leadership, it's competitive. It's a place where real good people aspire to lead the organization. So when you say that an election season has come and gone and nobody's interested in contesting, you know that a lot is going on. And first, it's the interference of Kampala politics into UNAA. UNAA is supposed to be an NGO and specifically catering for people, Ugandans living in North America. And the politics of Kampala have not of recent, but it has taken time, but now it's been conquered, I could say. And it has taken over the leadership, the internal politics, the whole organization generally, and they've turned something which is supposed to be a non-partisan political, a non-political entity organization into a political, and that NRM political organization. Ministers like Nankabir will come here days before elections and they make sure they manipulate the whole process to fit into their interest as NRM, and they dictate things from Kampala. I mean, that wouldn't be bad. I mean, I wouldn't mind the politics of Uganda to interfere into the organization and engage Ugandans in diaspora to really, be politically involved in the politics back home. But that would mean if we had all the politicians, if we had NOOP participating, if we had FDC participating, if we had all political interests, maybe even other non-political interest groups participating and having a voice and a platform, I would be happy to see a platform where, say, a minister from Kampala from NRM is seated on a bench, and next to him is a NOOP leader of opposition on the bench, and maybe a UPC leader, well represented, presenting all political interests, presenting all Ugandans, because we are all Ugandans from different political persuasions. So we want to listen to everyone, not NRM. NRM is just one small group of the so many other groups. So when NRM dominates everything and not only dominating politically, but also manipulating the election processes, that whatever mess you see in NRM party elections in Kampala is now also the mess we see in diaspora groups trying to elect their leadership. So we have imported the bad habits, and that has destroyed the organization to some extent. People now, who even manage to go to UNAA, just go there to greet each other and have that social interaction, but they no longer go there for patriotic reasons, to listen, to interact about the political and the governance events happening in Kampala, because that has died for some time. Even if they bring in people, okay, they can bring the Minister of Lands and he talks about land there. People want to listen because they have properties there, and they want to know the new policies and how their properties would be affected. But what I mean is that people have lost interest in talking about policy. For instance, we have really informed members of the Ugandan diaspora groups here who would be interested in participating and listening into policy making things and listening about national plans, chatting the way forward, talking forums on how to participate, how we can engage as diaspora with the Ugandan government, at the state level, not at the party level. So that's what we have failed to cultivate, even all these years we've been around. Albert maybe knows better. I don't know before NRM, destroyed everything, whether there was that interaction. But I remember political leaders, they used to come from all spectrum. We used to see, for instance, Kiza Besigye representing FDC being invited. We used to see other, opposition leaders representing their views also, sharing your views so that people can listen and make their own judgment or just have that whole picture about what is going on. So that has died over time. But not only that, but also the local leadership of the organization has been infiltrated and the whole fabric has been destroyed, and it's just NRM washed, if I can use that term. And that's not good. That means we can't even do anything. It's like a virus entering the whole corners of the Ugandan fabric that you can't even have anything special going on. And how do we get out of that? How do we really turn this around? Is what I don't understand. Is the organization going to die first and then we start something new, which will be a waste, because really this is a big organization. It's very representative. It has been cultivated over time and built, and to see it being destroyed is really very unfortunate. I will talk later about the NRM policy, about the registration, but I want to hear about what, for instance, Karim and Francis have to say. Their parties, they are from opposition. You are never being represented in such agencies. So what do you think about it?
Absolutely, and you tickled my mind there. I'm very curious what Francis has to say about the fact that we do not see any opposition representation at these conventions, and unless it is a new convention, then we see, opposition come into play. So, Francis, what say you?
Oh, thank you, Lynn. Like other members, I, for one, I did not attend the UNAA convention for personal reasons. But also most important is UNA has been in existence now for about maybe 35 years. And one of its values or objectives why it was established was to foster unity, networking, and people sharing experience, and let's say social engagement, and maybe empowering the Ugandans. But I don't think I'm in position for over the years to make the assessment of what they have achieved and what they have not. But the vibrant UNA that we used to hear of is not the UNA that we have. Because if they talk of community support, for example, then I would ask myself, okay, what support have they given to the community apart from this self-mobilization? And then we try to support one another here and there, but not like a formal arrangement from UNA. Then if we talk of cultural heritage, still you find that it is lacking. I have not seen that. Like the one I attended, the one that was here in DC, I did not see such come out things like scholarship that are talked about on as the objectives of UNA. Then maybe financial literacy and so on, business promotion and career development. So I find it a little bit challenging. And then, like as how Miriam has said, it is all now a function of politics, as if it is an extension of the political divide that is back home. And we accept that if UNA was to remain neutral, then it would be extending invitations to different actors or different Ugandans in their different capacities, whether business people or political activists or political parties and so on, to have like the same floor. And I remember one time whenever I was discussing with the Albert, he once said that during those times, like they would have different forums where you find if it is a political forum or a business forum and people are discussing those issues at that level with respect. But now it's not. Here it is like an extension of NRM versus other people, and then trying to subdue them. They should not speak or they should not have a voice. So I think if UNA would be revived back to its past glory, so that we see it uniting Ugandans other than pick and play or pick and choose who to silence and who to be involved and who not to be involved. But it would be just at that level. Like, just the common denominator would be we are Ugandans, period. Thank you.
Right, indeed, absolutely. On that note, Karim, what are your ideas about the UNA convention?
Thank you so much, Lynn. One, UNA as an organization would have been a very good platform for Ugandans here in the diaspora, especially after 37 years of its existence. But instead of evolving into something that is really structured, grounded, um, I think it's evolving into a festival. Just a festival that all they do, we have to have the convention, and that's it. And that takes away from anything else that would have been planned for the organization. For example, government puts into money into UNA about $100,000 every year, and any organization that gets that kind of money at least should have some kind of structure, some kind of address, an office that runs, that runs the activities, that oversees, that thinks for the organization. And unfortunately, all that money is just pumped into the 3-day festival, if I should say that by myself. So there's a lot that is there's a big missed opportunity. And when it comes to things like, what Mr. Francis said, government as a government extension of its arm, like when government started putting into money, it tried to lure Ugandans into, into the NRM, and the opposition became anybody who opposed any government, practices was kind of kicked away. And that's the reason why some of us from the National Unity Platform decided that we should have something separate where people can openly talk about the issues, can openly, have the issues that are affecting our people, have a platform where people can talk about these things. So although UNA had, was hiding behind itself being apolitical, you see so many political players. When you talk about, when you talk to UNA members about the shrinking civics space within the organization, they will tell you this is not a political organization. However, most of the times the guest of honor, the headliners, the people that you see that are involved, are all political heads. And this organization is also, being given money from the government to do its PR within the diaspora. So I am afraid that what would have been a good platform for the diaspora, for the growth of the community, is shrinking into just a weekend festival. And after the festival, we have to look for where it's going to be held the next year. Then after another year, you're gonna have elections and elections, and after the elections are done, then you change structures, you change, the banking system, you change the card, like everything changes within 2 years. And if it had grounded structures where has its own administration, and the elections are just for that, for the people who head it, but the administration stays for the organization, that would have been, something that most people can rally behind. But the way it is right now, I see it's really going down. because there is no reason why such an organization that has been in existence for all these years cannot have elections, and the reason being that the people who are doing this work are beloved so much that there is no opposition. The opposition abandoned. People decided to let the government do whatever it wants, and we ended up showing that the emperor has no clothes now. Whoever was denying that government has a hand in this organization, the answer was open in Louisiana. So that's all I can say about Louisiana. The only good thing that is coming out of that area of town is that I think I should add this one. That the Ugandan community was lucky to have a Catholic bishop that is taking over the diocese of Louisiana, and I think this weekend the Ugandan Catholic community is going to be gathering in Louisiana to celebrate with Father Simon Peter Ingrat, who is going to be the leader. So they are going to have their maiden Ugandan service in Louisiana this weekend. So that's the good news coming out of Louisiana. But as for UNA, I wouldn't give it up for them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Karim. Dr. Chisambila, you join us at a point we are looking at UNA. UNA used to be a very lucrative business. Allow me use that statement. Everybody wanted to go for that event. People would sell their cows and homes to just go for UNA convention. Now it seems to be on the way out. I don't know if it is on the way out or on the way down. But relatedly, the president urged all Ugandans living abroad to formally register with the government through their respective associations and, of course, UNAC inclusive, saying the exercise will help the state plan better and strengthen engagement with the diaspora community. He also said that he's going to find a way of making sure that the Uganda Investment Authority role is loud enough for inclusion, especially for Uganda diaspora. And this talks about investing home, people being free to come back home and be able to freely do whatever it is they want to do, especially in the areas of investment. What say you? Hello, doctor. Could you unmute and speak?
Yes, hello. I suddenly lost you towards the end, so I thought it's on my. Oh, sorry for that. One, I'm happy to hear from all of you once again. It's been a while, and it's been a couple of serious business down here. But I hope everyone is okay. Hi, Miriam. Hi, Karim, and the rest of the people on the show. I'm happy to hear from. Hi, Lynn, the moderator. About the UNA convention and the head of state's comment about registering all people in the diaspora, I think I'll start by saying that one, the registration is a good move economically, especially for our country, in the fact that foreign remittances, the last time I heard about it, around 2014, was amounting to around 1.4 billion US dollars, which is quite a good amount of money. So if we harness that opportunity to have a streamlined a way of directing this money, I mean, in a way of registering these people, how many are they and what opportunities do we have back home that we can channel those resources to make the economic boost for our country? I think that's a good move. But we can't forget the fact that it has tentacles to do with political interests and maybe security interests as well. Because we've heard of revolutions that have started from the people in the diaspora, in several countries historically. I'm not a good historian, but at least I've heard of some of them. So we are not exception. I mean, we are not an exception to that. So we've been, we know how our history is in terms of how the political landscape is being shaped nowadays. The diaspora is playing a very big role in directing the way how politics is being played back home. So This guy is wise, so if he has all of you registered, probably it gives him a good ground to either negotiate or coerce the diaspora into a certain corner that favors the current regime politically, but also security-wise, because he has lamented on several occasions that political organizations down here are getting several amounts of money from the diaspora. So once he gets to know who is where at all times, it is easier for him to build a security base that can easily feed him with useful information in that regard. So that is my view about the move of the head of state to register. But economically for a country, it's a wise move. And allow me to say this about investment. It still has a lot of challenges because back home here, investment is quite difficult. It has its own issues, but my biggest problem is about the issue of inequalities in terms of incentives, how government chooses to dispose of its incentives towards the investors, a way that it favors foreign investors more than our own, those that are living in the diaspora and those back home. And it's so expensive because our own people have to start from scratch, whereby they have to find their own land and other factors of production if they are going to be engaged in serious business, vis-a-vis the given to foreign, like they're given tax holidays or tax breaks, receive free land for investment, which is not the case for our own people. So it is quite still a challenge to convince our own people to come and invest back home because what they have gone through otherwise. Allow me to say some of the reasons as to why people have fled from here to the is because they have tried something here and it has not worked out. So convincing them is good, but there's still some challenges to work with. But also there are some opportunities. The government is deliberately doing this because it is trying to make sure maybe the economy is more productive back home than relying on imports all the time, and making sure maybe people multiply their money to also contribute to the growth of our economy. It's a good move, and it has put, I think, several platforms that favor. I think there is a desk for only the diaspora people. It has financial tailor their services towards the diaspora team, like having diaspora accounts. I think enabling online transactions, things like that. I mean, something that really eases the life of someone who is in the back home. Some financial institutions are providing services that help the people in the diaspora to invest in property and all that. I mean, there are some opportunities that people can reap from. Challenges, I think, for now outweigh the benefits. Maybe the other thing is about, I want to comment on Miriam's issue of political grounds in the UNAA convention. For me, the way I look at this is that I think NRM has just been wise and smart to take the stage. But initially, as she said, the organization initially wasn't meant to be political. But a political player down here who is looking for supporters and who is looking for, support and to taint their image better in all ways has to look for all grounds possible. So I think it has been good for them to use that opportunity. I would give them credit for that. But also, we shouldn't forget the fact that it requires resources and logistical support for people to be able to take stage at that. So if let's say a NOP or the DP or DF or PPF is going to bargain for a position to have a space to speak at the UNAA convention, trust me, there is something they have to foot in terms of bills of either travels and all those expenses involved. So not so many parties have the chance to use their resources for that. And even what they have is not enough to do what they think they can do back here at home. But the ruling party has the opportunity for that. They easily leverage on the government resources. Cater for tickets and accommodation and it's easy for them, to buy in for that. So it is easy also for them to influence the politics within the organization because as we've spoken about how much money comes back home, a wise political party would have taken that stage to win them on their side because they know that once they have that class that can raise that much money, a certain percentage on their side, it's a good win for them. Lastly, about that is that you see, the diaspora, not only in the North America, but elsewhere, has been divided politically, as you've said. But everyone have their strongholds in different places. We can't deny that. So probably the North America has been a stronghold for the NRM, but also I think other political parties like the DP, the NOPE, and all that, they have their stronghold areas. When diaspora in the Middle East, that I supporters. So when you have conventions down there that are political and you want to invite people, I think NUP will make a show in some areas and NRM wouldn't. So for me there, it's been bad that the diaspora has been stripped into groups politically, but it's a good move for political parties that are taking chance of that group because they play a key role in directing and supporting the home political activity. So I wouldn't blame it for the NRM or for the leaders in the the UNAA team, but a good win for the NRM for using that opportunity to win that group back. So it's the role of the NOPE and the other political parties to also find their way into that stage. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I see Francis in the chat room. He says the government move for diaspora to register to a greater extent is geared towards serving Museveni as an individual and his henchmen and not for the good of Uganda. Therefore, it is done. It is done in bad faith. And on that note, I want to come to you, Albert, and ask because in this new development of registration, the president said that the reports indicate that there are 4 million Ugandans abroad. And he seems to think it could be more, it could be less. So the registration is going to be led by Major Retired Awich Pola, the NRM Director External Affairs, and Ms. Barbara Barungi from State House in partnership with Ugandan community leaders in each country. So he says you must work with the people on ground, country by country, so that you can register Ugandans who want to be registered. And he also said that the Uganda Investment Authority would soon create a special position for the diaspora community and will appoint one of you, and I'm quoting, I will appoint one of you once recommended as Deputy Director, Uganda Investment Authority. When you come, you'll go to him or her directly without going through other people. Albert, the question here is this anything new, really? Are we going to see is it going to be of any impact? Because remember, we have about, I don't know, close to 5 or 7 diaspora desks in Parliament, State House, immigration. I think they're quite scattered, and there are many. But now we have this.
Thank you for the question, Lynn. And I liked the doctor's assessment of UNA. But I want to dispel the myth that actually this is a political space that the NRM has worked very hard and has captured, and other organizations should. First, we wouldn't actually want that. We wouldn't want our community organization, or we never wanted our community organizations to be a political battlefield. This is an organization tailored to, or supposedly tailored to catering for our needs, our development, our networking, and Uganda would have been an extension because, of course, that's our homeland. But we don't want this to be the politics of Uganda are not civil. The politics of Uganda are not even not for the faint of heart. So we don't want that, and that's exactly what has happened. So this myth that the NRM has done this, so other political parties can, is not real because they have not done it. They have not done anything. They have used money, and this is not even a stronghold for them. They have used money. I've seen them buy. When you pump money, and when we talk about $100,000, that's the money that we know. But when elections are competitive, as they have been in a couple of years, 2019, 2017, and 2021, when they actually ran in Cincinnati, that money, that cannot be categorized as the NRM doing a play for the diaspora. When you come and pay all the rooms of the hotel, when you pay people and pay basically you give somebody $100 per vote. That is not playing for the hearts and minds of the people in the diaspora. So right now, as many have said, I don't want to even spend more time bashing the organization. Like I said, they did a party. We've done the parties for the last 30 years, but this is not a space that has some civility or even democratic norms where you can say, oh, the political party can also play and capture. No, as a matter of fact, the people in the diaspora, at least in North America here where we are, most of them are really not that into NRM. As that's why NUP actually can do a political convention, but NRM has never done a political convention in the US. Okay, so they don't have the groundwork to do that. I think I recently saw a clip from Andrew Mwenda who said that without the state, the NRM does not exist. So, and I actually believe that. It's the same thing here. Without the money from Kampala, buying and the intimidations and the campaigns that they put up here, I don't think any NRM can actually put up any good leadership in these organizations. But anyway, back to the registration. I think I had mentioned this earlier. The registration is a good exercise, and the doctor has said the same. I grew up in Toro. We grew up with cows. I remember milking them. If you wanted more milk, you kind of had to feed the cow, give it water. And NRM wants to just keep milking and milking and milking without ever feeding the cow. Look at the environment we're in right now. Communities like ours, and by that I mean immigrant communities, are so tuned in with the current administration's anti-immigration stances. They are doing everything. Now, if I was to ask, if I was not in Louisiana for the convention, but if there was an immigration forum, I never heard about it. If they had paid a lawyer to come and talk about the situation we're in, I didn't hear about it. But those are the things you should be doing. You cannot be running remittances. Remittances are going to decrease because people are not working. People are not working because some of our people were out of status. They can't risk going out there. And when they can't risk going out there, the money they're sending to their families in Uganda is going to decrease. So instead of sending us some politicians and they'll tell, come invest, maybe feed us. And right now the need would have been to set up maybe, pay an immigration law firm and attach it to one of these embassies and say, hey guys, if you have a problem, this contact so and so at the embassy. So those are the kind of things that the organization was supposed to be doing. So this idea of register and come and invest. No, investment is a very, very emotional, at least for some of us who are here in North America. Investment is an emotional concept. Okay, if I do not believe that you care about me, if you are terrorizing my people back home, investment in what? And honestly, I think before the doctor came, I had said this, like, we lost a couple of people in our community, and yeah, we're beginning to bury our people here. This is home. So Uganda has, the leaders and policymakers have not really tuned in how to talk us into that decision of separating us from our money. Okay, they talk at us, they don't ask our needs. It's like we don't exist. So Museveni can try all he wants to register everybody. Yeah, I can register as Albert Bakazar, and I have, and he can have my number, but he's not going to have my sons and their sons' numbers and their names. No, he's not. Okay, and that's not saying, oh, I don't love Uganda or anything. It's just a reality. Okay, me, I want to be attached to Uganda, and I'm going to be. But they have not made any effort to reach out to the next generation. They're not looking 20, 30 years beyond that. And maybe that comes with age. The man is, let's face it, the man is 80 years old. So asking him to plan for 20, 30 years from now is kind of unrealistic. Okay? But that's what exactly they should be doing. Again, if the government really wants this investment, they need to look at us, not as people that they want to separate from their money,
Right.
but as stakeholders in Uganda. And when you really have a stakeholder and you really care about somebody, you ask them what their needs are, you ask them what their values are. If you don't align those, I'm not investing. Especially,
Right.
like I said, some people are beginning to get buried here. So if we're burying here, if I'm never even going to come back to Uganda, why should I invest in Uganda?
Right, absolutely. Thank you, Albert. Miriam, coming to you, Major retired Paula, who's going to be the lead in this exercise, explained that Article 25 of the NRM Constitution allows any group of 20 or more Ugandans abroad to form an NRM branch, enjoying the same status as an NRM district within Uganda. And I'm quoting, NRM UK, for instance, is equivalent to NRM Bara or Hoima district, adding that branches can form smaller cells in various cities. So I think I now get what Doctor and Albert were saying about the interests of this registration. But I want to pick your mind, Miriam. What say you?
Lynn, allow me first to respond to Doctor's comments earlier. Dr. Cassandra, it's a pleasure to see you back again, and thank you for saving a life. I hear you were called for an emergency. I hope the patient survived. But on
Yeah,
your
yeah,
comment,
that patient is okay and moving out of theater now.
oh, great. On the comment about UNA, UNA is a non-partisan organization. And I actually I don't even know, I think Albert can correct me here, if involving the politics to the extent they are doing is even constitutional. Because they are supposed to be like a civic organization, non-political. And the purpose is to unite Ugandans of all walks of life. And there is an aspect about Ugandans in diaspora that is also being undermined. Like most Ugandans in diaspora are either they are not so NRM, even if they are NRM leaning, it's like they have like it's not as close as NRM back home as it is, because our interests here are valid and they are larger than the partisan politics back home. So when you reduce that big organization involving so many people from walks of life, Albert is talking about second generation Ugandans who are not even registered voters in Ugandans, but they are bona fide Ugandans and they're interested in Uganda, maybe not for political reasons, but as citizens of Uganda, or maybe friends of Uganda. We have married different nationalities, and if you reduce that whole big um, population with different interests and whatever to just a political, partisan agenda, that's losing out on a lot. That's kind of like minimizing something that would be big and benefiting the whole of Uganda as a nation into something so small and, like a village party or gathering. And that's a disservice to Uganda as a country. So I think we can do more being patriotic than being just partisan in RM, even for the interest of um Uganda, interest of NRM as a government, even Museveni as a leader. If I were him, I would just let people just be. That's one way of even capturing people's minds and see where you stand. It gives you like that gauge to see how can you capture these people competitively on democratic principles. How can you persuade them with your policies, with your actions, not just manipulation? And that would give you like that leverage because you would have earned it and people would respect that, and that feeds into the investment aspect of it as well. I remember we hosted here NSSF people one time, and they were also calling upon the diaspora people to come and invest in Uganda by saving with NSSF. And one question I received was that, how safe is my money? if I invest here in America, even if I get 1% interest per year instead of the 14% interest in Uganda, at least I'm assured of my money for 60 years or later, even 200 years to come. But in Uganda, in NSSF, how safe is your savings? So those are the things. That's how you attract investment. Can you assure us of continuity? Can you assure us of infrastructure? Can you assure us of transparency? No corruption instead of manipulation. Elaine talked about our friend Awich Pola. We had him here on this show a few weeks back, being rallied into that registration. I think attracting Ugandans to invest back home is a good move. But you see how they have already minimized it to NRMized it, if I can use the word. Like they have already turned into an NRM agenda instead of a national agenda. So if you are talking about investment and you're already talking about NRM sales, which is which? So if I'm no, I can't register for investment. Is it gonna be partisan? Is it gonna be nationalistic? And that also is like one reason why are you appointing an NRM party sec? I think which Pola is like external coordinator in SEC in NRM party instead of getting a state official, a non-partisan official, maybe from Ministry of Foreign Affairs to lead the the project. And this is not the first time this project has been pushed on. It's not the first time that it's being presented. It's been here even last year when we were on the diaspora forum in Munyonyo. It was also represented, and I don't know how many people have registered so far. So if you are pushing an agenda and you say that response is not as good as it should be, why don't you go back on the drawing board and see why are you not attracting people? What are you doing right and what are you not doing right? I think what Seven has failed to capture, and people who talking to him about diaspora, is that partisan agenda, that partisan focus is a disincentive convincing the diaspora people to invest in Uganda. You would rather have a nationalistic agenda, a nationalistic outlook. For instance, if it was the Ministry of Planning and maybe Ministry of Foreign Affairs, fronting that agenda, and they are using the embassies, non-partisan agencies, state institutions to register people. And then you have to convince me as well that the information you are gathering, you are not going to weaponize it against me as a diaspora person who might not be partisan, NRM partisan leaning. Because there are people who are also concerned, like, if you are taking my information, my bio, my everything, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to weaponize it against me in case I don't agree with your government, or you are going to use it for the mentioned purpose, which would be attracting investment and all that. And even attracting investment is not just in form of the monetary and all that, but we are also talking about skills transfer. We are talking about exchanges, like for instance, Dr. Kisambira and his group can coordinate with another branch of doctors here, and they do telemedicine and they do research and all that stuff. So there are a lot of ways we can interact on academic level, on exchange levels, where people can have those cultural exchanges and all that. But we are not utilizing the spaces as we should. We are minimizing everything into an NRM agenda, and that's a disservice to Uganda and Ugandans at large.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Miriam. I want us to quickly wrap up this and we're going to another conversation. But in the chat room, Francis says it is an indication of what we have always said, the collapse of government institutions. That is why Museveni has to micromanage everything. typical dictator. So he says, and indeed, I'm coming to you, Francis. On that same note, we have many desks manning everything and anything diaspora. This new development of registration, we want to know, the president said, we want to know who you are, where you are, and see how best to plan for you. And he says this is not for only NRM, but also for everybody. Question here would be, Francis, that to what end?
Like I have always said, Museveni as a person is selfish and self-centered. So that's why it's hard to trust him. And like as I said, there is some of this information that you may not even need to keep asking people. For example, when I was exiting at Entebbe International Airport, there is immigration. I passed through them. They saw my visa and where I was going. So why should I register if they have a system that works? You have been seeing a fleet of girls being taken to Saudi Arabia or wherever. Do they pass through the sea that they don't see them? So it means if there was a proper, you already have their information and their final destination. But the most important part would be that, for example, if it was for good intention, like as I have always said, there is nothing for us without us. So the best way to engage us would be through well-established government or structures or institutions that we know are working. But because the NRM or the government of Uganda, there is no government structure or institution that is independent and is functioning that we can trust. That's why I cast doubt. Then number two, there is no strategic kind of planning, like as how Bakasara said. Are you focusing on Francis now, or on Karim, or on Miriam? Are you not focusing on their children and great-grandchildren? So, for example, how would you do that? So this would be the conversation that we'll be having. And for me to go and think that you are trying to use you are using a rudimentary approach to solve a deeper and modern challenge is not going to work. You see, like all these Museveni that is doing, like we have talked of those, I equate it to the poverty eradication program where he started with the Entandikwa, Bonabagagawale, I don't know, 1 acre model, now and so on. So he keeps turning from one thing to another, but yielding zero results. So to me, I think not until he puts his hands off, like the way how UNAA had started, would even reach that. Number one, there were business forums on how people can develop, how people can invest back home. By the way, for your own information, even most people during that time went back home and invested. Now, if you come and ask, or if you ask Mr. Albert, he will tell you a list of challenges that people who went back home and invested faced, not from the environment, but most of them from government. So now, if there was, that's why I was saying there should be a conversation to have. On some of occasions here, Bakasara has said that convince him how he should remove equity from his house to go and invest it back home. Now that you have not answered that, and then you say a mayor registering Bakasara, then you tell him of investment opportunities that exist home, then that is enough to convince him to go and invest there. There is a much more conversation that is even beyond Museveni to comprehend, that needs technical expertise. And in this aspect, it's not Museveni, but it is we who they want to go and invest vis-a-vis the people whom we know are non-partisan. They are technically competent to do that, and we interface and discuss, and then we see how we move forward. But now you see for him, his main focus is because there are remittances that people normally send and so on. Does he even know how we make that money, by the way? Do you know what we go through? So there are so many. Lina, I will give you an example. Like recently, you must be aware that the Ugandan students, when they are coming here, now the visa has been reduced to 3 months. Kenya has 5 years. So it's not a function of registration. It's a function of government failure in as far as different aspects is concerned. And all these underpin what now they would be asking for on what we can do or how best. The government has to, if in one way or another, its institutions would be supporting us for us to be able to come and invest back in Uganda or to support its functionality. But short of that,
Francis, we lost you there, but it's okay. I think there was a network issue. Karim, Karim, I want to pick your mind as well on this particular issue of registration and how it will benefit the Ugandan diaspora at large. Quickly, and then we move into what's happening in the political arena.
Thank you once again, Lynn. I think registration wouldn't be a problem, but the way it is being marketed. I mean, if you were to tell Ugandans that what we are doing today is that we have revamped our systems and the internal affairs, you can come if you need to renew your passport, if you need a national ID, the need for Ugandans to have a NIN number and what it means to have a NIN number. Um, that is granted because that's the work that is expected from the embassy. But if you go into trade and national planning, that's not their jurisdiction. If the government wanted to know how many Ugandans are there in the diaspora, I think it would have been done during the census. And this has to be done through either UBOS or the National Population and Census Bureau of some sort. So I think the communication of this program lacks, and that brings these questions that the colleagues are raising here. What's the need? We just concluded the census. So when the census was being done, what was the estimate of Ugandans and how did we come to this conclusion? We can't have the census done and then you come ahead and say, you know what, now we want to go ahead and register Ugandans. I think the exercise that is being done in the diaspora is making sure, Ugandans who need their passport renewals, their national IDs, people need to get their NIN numbers. I think the focus should be there for Ugandans to know why there is need for that to happen, and that the exercise is going on smoothly, or that we have new machines that can help make this process really faster than it was, because that's what they are doing. But if they weave it into we want to see how Ugandans can be planned for, if it is being hidden behind, oh, we are going to get you trade representative. We've had that, and when it comes to trade, I think there is need for the Ugandan government to accept that they have failed on that front, to figure out how to work with the diaspora, with the people on ground here who understand both the diaspora and the current economy of Uganda, to appoint good representatives. So every maybe 2 years, Uganda is going to come up with trade representatives. You remember the program of PASAID, where Mr. Odrek Ravogo came up with his own trade representatives. He gave us a colleague, Olivier Kamanzi from Chicago, who himself admits he had only been to Uganda 3 times at the time of his appointment. So his appointment, I think, was the fourth time in Uganda, and that person is supposed to understand the interests of Ugandans and also understand the interests of the investors. You know, when you do such work and you don't do due diligence and you are not tapping into the people on ground, people who understand how these systems work. We have professionals like Mr. Bakasara here who have worked in big institutions who understand how trade and investment work. You need to tap into them. And even after appointing those people, they haven't reached out to the greater community. They are just running around doing their own thing. I would assume that if you have appointed trade representatives, their burden is to make sure they listen to the voices of the people in the diaspora who wish to invest back home, or who they can talk to on which places they think investors can go into. So we can't be lied to that this exercise is to make sure that the government plans better. If government really wanted to plan better, the best way to do it is through the census, is through the National Bureau of Statistics. You have all those numbers. We cannot reinvent the wheel. So the work that the internal affairs is doing is totally separate, and government has to be clear. And if the government is not clear, it brings these questions. Internal affairs is here to make sure people get their IDs, people get their ID numbers, and renew their passports. I think it should be as simple as that. But when you bring all these add-ons that we shall have NRM sales, blah blah blah, you make the work complicated and you make it questionable. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Karim, for that. I want us to move away from the new developments, but also still under developments. The National Unity Platform released its official list of flag bearers for the year 2026 general elections, and I don't know how to call it. I've been calling it drama because we saw pretty much worse with the NRM. The National Unity Platform is picking person A over person Z. They're shifting people from Busoga, bringing them to Nakawa. There's a whole lot going on. I have since morning felt to find the perfect word to describe what's happening with the political parties' internal democracies, because we're seeing that NRM, the National Unity Platform itself, they all share a lack of internal democracy, and there's been accusations of sidelining loyal candidates in favor of newcomers. Of course, and most of them have threatened that they're going to come back as independents, favoritism and political manipulation, bias, handpicking candidates, external influence, among very many other accusations. Now, Dr. Chisambida, I want us to dive into that conversation. We saw what happened with the NRM internal elections that were happening, the SEC, the NEC, all of them coming together for the primaries. And there was a lot of drama. People were selling positions. Somebody paid 1 billion allegedly. I do not have these facts, but I have read somewhere that somebody allegedly paid 1 billion rather shillings for a position. What is all this about? Must we really kill ourselves? Must we go bankrupt before we can, take up positions of leadership? The last time I checked, leadership comes from God.
Well, thank you so much, Lynn, and the rest of the panelists. Well, you see, I want to say I love the way the political parties in our the leading political parties have chosen to do their business internally. I just love it, first of all, because at least they have not chosen to do nothing. Secondly, I want to say that I believe in the fact that at least all of them have chosen to do something in their own way, and at least the majority of the people in that particular group have believed in what they have chosen and they have trusted the process. And at the end of that day, it is good to learn that they are coming out with results, whether they are appeasing to a certain group or not, but at least they have results. Let me start with maybe the NRM, because I think they were the first ones to go into the boxing ring of trying to look for delegates and members of the Central Executive Committee. First things first, the NRM chose their own process after testing out different methods. They chose what they chose, and they believe that is the process that gives them cream de la cream of the leaders that they are looking for. And at least at the end of that day, they came up with some people. Whereas there were some issues to do with the processes, at least at the end of the day, everything is trying to, calm down as time goes by. However, the impact of all this drama in the NRM on the national politics cannot be just taken for granted, because the people that are, being processed into positions of leadership in the ruling party are the same people that are going to take the center stage in determining the position of the country by and large. For the rest of us who are not actively, politically active, you'll find that the people in this, let's say, the sake of the ruling party might be the cornerstone of determining several direction of different policies in our country. So the process through which they went through to get these leaders, the whole filthy activities that marred the whole exercise were not called for. I happened to have had a connection to one of the delegates, but one of the comments, they said that they wished, when they were in the delegates conference, they wished they could go back and be youth at that time, because at least every youth delegate who was to participate in the voting of the youth representatives in that regard could walk away with at least 4 things in, and this is money that was given to them from the camps. One camp distributes 500,000 to each of the delegates, and then another camp says, oh, they've given 500. Oh, they come out and give 700. The other camp increases the tune until the whole drama became monetary. I think at one point the head of state intervened and called off the process, but for me, that has a lot of impact on the national stage, national political stage. It's going to change the whole political process, and let's be ready to see this in the coming general elections. Money is going to be everywhere, and it's going to direct the choice of leaders that people are going to choose, because they will choose those who might have shown maybe empathy in a way of sharing the little they have with the many. And I remember one of the big shots in the country said, it is, you better have a child who steals and comes and shares with you. So this shows you the process through which they have gone through to get the leaders, and the quality of leaders that they have gotten. But at least at the end of the day, they have a result, and their boss came out and congratulated those who were successful despite the processes. Now, coming back to the National Unity Platform, like I said, it is good they chose a certain path to come up with leaders, and it is good they have results. Now, recently they published a list of the endorsed candidates, those who have been blessed with the card in quotes, blessed in quotes with the NUP card at the local government level. But it has left a lot of commentary in the camp of the National Unity Platform, but on the national political stage as well. It has, the storm has hit even those who are not interested in knowing what is happening inside, because some people who were not satisfied have chosen to ally with other political parties to, front them as their candidates for the coming general elections. Now, on a broader picture, that tells you the quality of leaders that we have. Even when we chose to go multi-party politics, we did not actually mean it. Many of us did not mean that. I'm sorry, I have some background noise. Many of us did not mean that, because if someone chose to participate in a certain internal process of a party, and at the end of that, because they knew that if there are 10 candidates, it is only one person who is going to be endorsed. But you'll find that if there were 10 and one has been blessed, the 9 have gone ahead to choose an alternative path, either running independent or running around into different political parties. And for that, I want to say, there used to be a saying, I mean, in our local language, that when a cat gives birth to the young ones, it will keep them in certain corner and it hides somewhere. It comes out with a scaring sound, kind of mimicking a lion, and those that run away without recognizing that this is also a sound of a mother, happen to be, I don't know, I don't know, okay, thrown out of the family. They are not recognized as real family members. So this move of release the lists in bits has shown the national unity platform of what is going to happen tomorrow if they happen to release a list of those who have been are endorsed as their candidates for the member of parliament. So it's going to prepare them. And I want to say, I mean, I liked the way they did their things, because it has shown to them that all of us who go to seek for their card are not actual members. We are self-seekers. I mean, those who have not, being self-seekers, have chosen to stick with what has been announced, and I think that given them credibility or a certain position in the party. If it so happens next time they are vying for the same position, you never know, they still have a chance of being considered. So what I have to say is that, one, on individual level, for the active politicians who had gone to seek the NUP card, it is a very big sunshine onto them to see what is happening deep into their hearts. All those who chose to walk away, not believing in the internal party processes, could not have been the best candidates to be given the card. Secondly, the allegations of corruption. I liked the response of the current leader of opposition, Honorable George Senyonyi, where he said leaders who had bribed to get the card actually, and they did get it, actually deserved not to get it, because they were already sowing a seed that we could not be able to uproot if they went through as the right candidates. Because if you bribe to get a card and at the end of the day you emerge out as a successful candidate, then it means you're going to carry on the habit of corruption. So it was a bad thing if it so happens that they solicited money, but I have no sympathy for those who lost the card, but they had given in money. Lastly, on that, the organization itself, the National Unity Platform, this should be a lesson unto them, that there might be a question of how best can we design, let's say for the next upcoming general election, the future processes, how do we come up with a system that looks more transparent than this one? Being that an indoor and a closed activity or a process of looking for leaders, I would choose the NRM style of lining up at the back of people, because it is transparent, even though there were issues in counting, but at least it is transparent. Those who have lined up and will show up in big numbers will take the lead, other than into the National Unity Platform, which based only on the intellectual interpretation of a particular candidate based on what they saw on ground and maybe how the candidate was responding on to questions. Whatever happened in the kitchen, no one can tell. But for me, I think the process needs to be a little more transparent. They need to find more means. They have to go back to the drawing board to look for more transparent methods of finding candidates that might be more satisfying to those who are participating in the process, especially, and their followers, because it has left a mark on them for those who have really, who thought, especially the incumbents, like the mayor of Chira. I think he had thought that this is an automatic card for me to get because I'm already the incumbent. But he had forgotten that there are those who are incumbent who had run on the NOP ticket but did not go back to the party to seek for the same card. So there are several reasons as to why the party chose the people they chose, but they shouldn't forget that they need to come up with a better method of looking for leaders, which may seem to look more democratic and more transparent to those participating in their processes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chisambira, for that insights. And on that note, uh, the spokesperson of the PFF, and that is Honorable Semu Junganda, he said that the NRM primaries were like a kung fu competition. And now he compares even the National Unity Platform to the same. And he says, so other people, we have analysts who are coming in to say that the National Unity Platform is suffering a big man problem. Yeah, because most of our politics are under the shadow of the big man rule. And so the National Unity Platform equally has been hit hard that way. So a commentator is actually saying that National Unity Platform has intolerance to internal dissent, and that is why it has consistently avoided holding open competitive party primaries, a cornerstone of internal democracy in functioning political systems. And I come to you, Francis. Sorry, let me start with Albert. Albert, I come to you. What do you make of this development? I feel like we're in a circus in Kampala because we have a cycle, an election cycle every 5 years, and it's pretty much the same circus, and it just only gets worse by the day. But I don't know what do you make of this, Albert?
You don't feel like you're in a circus lane. You are in a circus. And but I differ from that commentary about Nope. I think the circus is not Nope's making. Nope does not exist, or any other political party for that matter. They don't exist in a vacuum. There has been a leader, there has been a party now for decades in Uganda. They have set the ground rules, and everyone is operating or trying to run away from those ground rules. So I do applaud Noop for thinking outside the box. Because think of what the politics of the NRM were, or the politics of the country have become. They've been monetized. So if Noop was to put up elections that looked similar to those of NRM, clearly every NOPE card holder would have been bought by the NRM, because the NRM are the country with the national coffers. They have unlimited money. So instead of fighting these guys, why not put fund your person there, and then they can have the NOPE card. So that's exactly what would have happened. So having a process that is unique to them, as long as the party structures allow it and they follow the rules that they put in place. And like the doctor said, if you agreed to the process, you should also agree to the result. Okay. And but Ugandans, of course, this is the stuff that we don't. And we started off talking about UNA the same way. In Dallas in 24, no, 2023, we passed the constitution. We fought contentiously. We voted as at the AGM, and we had passed the constitution. So people who fought and lost, who did not want to implement certain sections of the have decided not to implement them. And that's exactly what Uganda, some of these new losers are doing. You agreed to the process, yes, imperfect as it was, and maybe not so transparent as the doctor was saying, but that was the process. Those were the rules. You submitted yourself. You picked up the form and you filled it out. When you lose, whatever criteria they used to select, you submitted yourself to that, you agree with it and move on. So again, I think this is brilliant on the part of NOP, because you really cannot, if you think Museveni is a dictator and ruling the country in a way that is not that you don't like, you can't try to dislodge him out of power by using a playbook that he wrote. You have to go outside the box. So I applaud NOP for fundraising for its own party infrastructure, for refusing to take, I think there was iPod money, for not having people line up behind their backs and giving money to to delegates. So I applaud all that. So I do not agree with the characterization that MOP is this is something rampant, and I also don't like the false equivalency of NOP to NRM. The NRM is the ruling party. They have a hold of the national coffers. They're doing whatever they want. They are also the party that should be accountable to the Ugandan population. Okay. NOPE does not have power. So we cannot say, oh, NOPE is doing things like the NRM or NRM. No, they're not the same. Yes, they're both political parties, but no, one of those political parties has the power in Uganda and should be accountable. They should be setting the example. Okay. You don't say, oh, but this is a young political party that did not even exist a decade ago. So we cannot compare that to an entrenched party. Okay. So that forcing equivalence says, oh, NUP should also show us that they're democratic. How can NUP show you that democratic? Because if they were to show that they're democratic, every member with a card would be NRM, or at least NRM bought. Because the democracy in the NRM mind is money. Then the other part was on to go back to the leadership that is being put in place to take on these registration exercises. And I, by the way, I agree with the speakers. Really, for the president to stand up a new group now to try and register Uganda, it's either a lack of imagination because the information, as Kamhanda said, they already have the information. We've been registering for national IDs, we've been registering for visas, and we've been registering for a whole bunch of stuff. They have the information. So the exercise actually should be coordination, not registration. But they already have the information. And then for the second and third generations of Ugandans who are abroad, then there you cajole us nicely, you figure out a way of us to give us the names of our kids and grandkids. That's a whole different conversation that the government has not even started having. But I am not worried about the exercise. Yes, the doctor said it's also for security reasons. They want to keep an eye on us. They can do all that. I am not so worried about that because, and this is very, this is very, I don't even know how to term it, because the people they usually pick to lead those efforts in this community are not the best or the brightest. And I'm not saying that to demean my fellow diasporans here, but it has been the NRM way of doing things. Okay, even the problems we're having UNA, it's not like they can't find a reasonable, competent NRM leaning person to lead UNA. It's not that they don't exist; they're there. It's just they always go for whatever they term as loyalty, and they pick somebody, and you look at them as like, really, this is the person you picked. So because of that, I'm not worried about the exercises succeeding and even being a threat to some of our people here. I know they will not because the people they will pick will not have credibility to sell anything. It's the same thing they're doing with investors. So you see them meeting people. Oh, the president has made Ugandans who are going to lead an effort on attracting investments. I'm like, really? That's the person who is going to convince me to invest in Uganda? You mean the person who does not have any kind of business acumen here and still lives in an apartment 40 years and comes to Uganda and you pay for their food and lodging and then you give them a tip when they're leaving. That's the person who's going to interest me in investing my kids' money. That's the one. So those are the kind of the self-defeating things that the administration does. But we've talked and talked, and they still continue doing the same. That's fine. So we will wait to hear the announcements of the new people who are going to lead us. But knowing what they do, I guarantee you they will have no credibility in our community, and nobody will listen to them. And that registration will have but a few names on it.
Right.
I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you, Albert, for that. In the chat room, Dr. Chisambia says the big man syndrome is something you cannot afford to evade in all social movements. They must have a leader who makes impact when they say a word. Security could not even allow. Right. Miriam, I come to you, and the big question here, what we see happening in the NRM, the DP, the FDC, now we have another party backed out of the FDC, the PFF. We have a Noob and others coming together. There's a lot that is happening in internal politics. The big question would be, will our politics remain trapped in the outdated and destructive model of big man rule, or will we finally build systems that empower institutions, encourage debate, and prioritize the national good over personal ambition? Because this we see literally in all the parties in this country. Yet they claim they want to unseat a dictator. What do you say?
I think all these disorganization in parties and whether it's NRM or NUP or FDC, it all has its roots in um, the national political character. There used to be a time when NRM was pretending to build democratic institutions, and they would really go an extra level to make sure that they have transparent elections. But that was a long time ago. And recently, all we see is like chaos, the highest bidder taking it all. It's about money, it's about power influence. Sometimes they draw guns and shoot at each other. And it's a do or die for most of them, which is very unfortunate. And as for the opposition, I really commend the little they can do, that they are able to do. I remember watching around during the primaries, there was an ADUP member who was trying to, she wasn't even trying to mobilize. She was, I think, in Imbara. I think she stopped somewhere and was telling people, I'm going to stand ABCD, come and support me and all. And the police came and rounded her up and arrested her. And then there is a PFF member, Sam Mugumia, who also came out and said, I want to contest I think that constituency where Henry Tumukunde is contesting, somewhere in Kabale or Chigeza. I'm sorry, I forgot. And the guy Sam was kidnapped because there wasn't even an arrest. And they even went to court and applied for his production in court. And the government agencies are saying that they don't even have him in, real places where they arrest people. So he's not in his state institutions. Maybe he's in somebody's basement, and we know what happens. So in that type of environment, how do you expect the opposition groups to mobilize? And then, but that's not an excuse. I think we should have some standards, and I think some parties are trying, but they are not trying so hard. I want to blame it all into the national, like that character, like the way we have treated politics. We are not building democratic institutions, whether it's opposition, whether it's NRM, and nobody is really even pushing for it, including civil society. It's like we've reached at that stage where we have given up, that we can't do this anymore. And that's why I started by saying there used to be a time when everybody aspired to be democratic, or even pretended to be. Even if the money was used, at least there would be like some semblance of following the law, trying to be transparent, there being a consensus, and voting. And sometimes votes were counted, not just leaders being declared. I saw in NRM people who were saying, the first time I was declared a winner, then the next day, the returning officer came and declared another candidate. Given that, I think he received a phone call and say, oh, the other one was supposed to be the one declared. You declared the wrong one, whether they won or not. And so where are we going as a country? We saw how the 2021 national elections were all messed up. Unfortunately, so many people were killed, and the electoral commission itself, I think, announced wrong results several times over and kept correcting itself around. It was all a mess. I don't even believe that we are going to have any transparent elections 2026. I don't believe there is even to be like a semblance of trying to really even have have votes counted, the normal way, and the winner declared. That's why I'm saying I commend the opposition members that are trying to do something. But there should be like a standard, and someone should hold that standard. So the opposition leaders who are trying to say, okay, we are the alternative, I think we should be held at a higher standard. And it's very unfortunate when you see them shuffling around and trying to do stuff that NRM is doing, and what we are commending, what we are condemning. So I expect much better, and I'm thus disappointed. I'm disappointed when FDC broke up. I was disappointed when FDC broke apart because of allegations of bribery, which were never disputed, and some members, had to leave. So that party died. And it's still money, money following around. And this is taxpayers' money and coming basically from the state coffers, money that should be doing public services, but it's just used to buy power around and influence. And the fate for me, I like looking forward, and I'm just looking how we recover from that. Like this, I mean, 2026 is going to come and go, but where is it going to leave us politically? Are we still going to be having opposition parties that we can hold accountable? Are we still going to have a ruling party that is listening to the people, even has democratic structures? Because if you see like how NEC is running, NRM is running its primaries and how they are electing their leaders by appointing them, then there is that and a contestable seat of the party president, which is really unfortunate. You call it a big man syndrome, but I think some big men also have some standards. I think ours have really gone down to the dogs. And I don't know how we're going to get it back up into the right democratic track.
Right. Thank you, Miriam, for that. And Francis and Karim, I am ending with you on this conversation. Maybe we can get some reactions later. For it is intentional that I that I come to you last, but not least, certainly. So I want to begin with you, Francis. And from what you've heard from the West, still we have challenges as in political party organization. We are suffering with the internal democracies. The question remains here: what is this democracy the National Unity Platform is consistently preaching that it cannot exhibit? What are all these political parties? Why are they crying foul over things they cannot do internally? If they did, then perhaps would be challenged, or perhaps the party against which they come, they would be challenged, but they're still doing pretty much the same. So we're not seeing any difference.
Julian, it's not true that we are pretty much doing the same. I will give an example. Self-funding of a political party. We as ANT, we have done that. We have never had funding from anybody, but we have been funding our own activities, and we know what it means. But I would say that all political parties in Uganda are victims of circumstances perpetrated by the ruling party. Why? Number one, you have seen that the ruling party, because it has lost credibility, but it has turned politics into a business. It has turned politics into a commodity that you buy. And that itself poses a great challenge. That for us, I'll give you an example. The ruling party has been in power for the last 40 years. So it means, Lynn, if we must be objective, that some of the people who are coming, the young ones, 40 and below, the only good government they have seen is that one of Museveni, and the only bad government they have seen is that of Museveni. And if there is anything that they have to learn from politics, they have learned from the government of Museveni. So that is where the biggest problem is. Now, you find that some of these vices that are not healthy for political dispensation or democratic dispensation are borrowed as a leaf. And that's what we as political parties try to struggle in cleaning or in weeding some of these bad vices that people come with or they have seen play in other or in the NRM political party. Dr. Ksamba talked about that he likes the transparency of the NRM by reining up. No, I don't think that that is a transparent way. We are talking about what happens before people lining up, giving them 1,000, giving them a sacket of salt. So that's what we should be looking at. Is it the best way? But if that is what the NRM has chosen, that is how they want to manage their internal democracy. But for us now, when it comes to the context under which we are operating as parties that don't agree with what NRM is doing, you should not forget that we are operating in a context that is very difficult. So, since it is fragile, we have to also use agile programming in doing our business. So that's why we have to devise for other better means. See what happened. Somebody is sinking 1 billion or 5 billions in being a national vice chairperson of a party. So the question is, I have never seen the salary structure of that party, the people who are in SEC, where a person in maybe 5 years is going to reap back the 5 billion. That means there is something much more than that, that maybe they get closer to that power and dubious means or deals are done, but which are very detrimental to a Ugandan, which are very detrimental to our country. And that's what we are trying to say, no, we need to avoid this. So it is important that as other political actors, we keep, because we all have different ideologies, but fighting a common enemy. And therefore, since it is work in progress, we will still keep coming up with what we think is the best solution that fits a given situation. Not until we have the ground leveled that we can say, okay, this is how democratic dispensation in our country can be run. But with a lot of manipulations from the NRM, and so on, eyeing these different political parties, I think I would say the approach that NUP uses in its internal democracy, and for us as ANT that we have been using, is the best way to go for now. It's not chiseled on stone, as you have seen. There are different options that we have been using. And why is it that people are shaken? Because of the approach that either NUP has used. Is it because it has cut off where they thought they would come and manipulate? And more of these tactics or strategies that are familiar with the what Bakasara has said, the playbook of Museveni, are more are coming. And you talked about the split in political parties and so on. I think I would admit that one of the things that we should work on as political parties in opposition is how to manage our internal democracy, I would say internal conflict as a family. I think that's, and that's why I'm saying we are still weeding, because we have discovered that even those who end up like refusing to be subjected to the internal democracy and internal conflict resolution mechanism, they have an element in as far as the ruling party is concerned, and then they go on making noise. But otherwise, it is normal for the same family or people to have different thinking about one aspect, and conflict is normal, but the way how we resolve it. But those who refuse even the way how we have decided to resolve a conflict internally, they are the ones that we doubt very much. And I should also maybe say that we have not been having a due process that once people are coming from where they are saying, we say, okay, we are welcoming everybody, provided you are also disgusted with the status quo. Let's join hands and move forward. But I think moving forward, we may end up putting some strings to ensure that are you coming from another party because you are disgruntled and then you want to come and join us and you bring all your bad voices to again disorganize? If you see in all different political parties where internal conflict has erupted, it rotates on a character who had ever caused the same confusion somewhere. So I think it's a lesson for us, and we'll be looking into that. But otherwise, in an agile environment, we shall have to do agile strategic programming and planning our activities. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Francis. Karim Ntambi. Karim Ntambi is a member of the National Unity Platform, and proudly so. And here we are digesting what is going on with your party, Karim. I intentionally end with you because I'm sure you're picking on what everybody else has said, so that you can give us informed feedback. So my question, I have quite a number of questions for you, but one that stands out is that in your party constitution, it requires that NEC members recuse themselves from candidates selection if they intend to run for elective positions. But we have seen that your NEC was involved in well, allegations of handpicking and favoritism and bias and all these things in picking who makes it for the flag bearer of whatever position. Two, the National Unity Platform has failed to hold open competitive party primaries. And this, we have always said, is a cornerstone of internal democracy in all functioning political systems. Yet you're the same people who preach democracy, who preach democratic values, and you're saying our the NRM has not does not practice democracy. So really, I ask again.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I first of all want to notice that there is a lot of false equivalency, and you are comparing the underdog to the oppressor. I don't think that's really fair.
There are standard systems world over, Karim. You just party primaries. It's just typical. It is expected regardless.
Okay. I think I will answer that. I think a couple of years ago, the question has been, we need the national unity platform to have structures, and that has been a call that we have answered. Now that we have structures, people don't believe in those structures, and one of those structures that we established was the EMT, the Election Management Committee. Two, when you talk about open primaries where people can line up, I wouldn't even say line up, but where people can, go and do one vote, one person. I think in an ideal situation, that would be something that everybody would aspire for. But given the circumstances under which we are operating, um, first of all, we wouldn't have the finances to do that. We don't. We fully funded by the people for the people, and we have these elections back to back. So you would have um, uh, the organization to go into financing um, primaries at a local government level, nationwide, and after that we are going into the the members of parliament. Then we shall be doing the same, and the organization that you're comparing to us, like Mr. Wakasara said, has the national coffers at their disposal. They can do what they want. They can line up. They can give themselves money. You've seen this. The people you're comparing to us openly lined up and started distribute. You would see a candidate distributing money on the line on the election day. You know, I think we would be remiss if we don't put our laser onto that. So what the National Unity Platform decided to do was to do something that was internal, and most of the all of the people who applied agreed on those terms. But unfortunately, when you have so many people apply for the same position, chances are you're going to find people are going to be dissatisfied. Because if the tables had been turned and the runaways were the ones who were given the party flag, I don't think they would have complained. But in a situation where you have 8 people, 5 people going for the same position, chances are you're going to find somebody who concedes, you're going to find somebody who runs away, and you're going to find somebody who thinks they were doing more than anybody else. So this was expected. I think there is need for us to do a better job to civically engage our people on how this whole process works. That once you're not given the card, it doesn't mean this is the end of the world. There are so many other ways that you can serve the party, and also it highlights something that Mr. Akasara talked about. That had we decided to do the open, one person, one vote kind of dispensation, one, it would have triggered violence, not even within our party, but you have seen our people being picked up on a daily basis, even without a fight. Even as we talk today, one of the colleagues who had contested for junior was picked up this morning, and he was abducted. We don't know on what charges. We are still trying to figure out where he is. Now, I imagine a situation where you're having an open primary in Kawempe, and you are at the, what is that field called, Kuta, is it Kunya Kutan, whatever that place is called, and the amount of violence by the state, even without money, the violence that would have been meted to our people, dispersing them, and then we would be going into this, legal process, get them out of jail, trying to figure out in a time that you need them to be together. And now the secretariat would be having the burden to running around trying to figure out who is in jail and who is in whose basement at the time. So we had to make sure that we figure out a more conducive way, that this process can be done. I believe, in the years to come, we will. This is a conversation that will be had within the party on how to best satisfy our people. But overall, majority of the people, agreed to the process, even those ones who didn't get the card. So I am afraid I wouldn't agree with the fact that you're saying, it left a major blow. No, these are, I would call this, it's a few people who felt frustrated, but the majority of the people who didn't even get the card, are still behind us, are still supporting the party, and are looking forward to support the candidates that finally emerged nominees, for the respective positions in the local government, as we gear up for the nominations for the MP.
Right, thank you, Karim. I'll take comments and if there are any questions I see in the chat room. Dr. Samba is saying, Miriam, all that is happening as the Honorable Minister Balam is canvassing the country for Museveni interim votes. Other parties are blocked. It has. Okay. Um, uh, Anyone with maybe reactions to what has been said so far, and what are your predictions as we head? But these predictions, no, we won't take predictions right now. It's too early to do that. But I have concerns that we are seeing National Unity Platform, and I'm going to give an example, is bringing Honorable, what is his name? Alex Mufumbiro to Nakawa, yeah, as a member of parliament, and pushed Engineer Barimwezo to the Kampala mayoral race. I still don't understand the dynamics. I don't understand how all this is going to play out. I don't know. Doctor, would you have
Okay, can
something?
I can I Can
Karim,
I answer to
Karim,
that?
it's confusing. Why can't Mufumbiro go to Busoga and stand as member of parliament?
But why must he go to Busoga if he lives in Nakawa? Why is Busoga more ideal for him? I think we don't want to create an impression that, you know, I've seen this thing go on where people from different regions say, okay, we are closing the door for people from this region to come here. Oh, I am the gatekeeper of Koboko. Oh, we shall not allow this type of people to come. But I think the country should evolve from that, because that's very dangerous. As a
Mm,
Ugandan, as per the constitution of Uganda, I think anybody can contest anywhere that, you
okay.
know, they think they are best suitable to win. The idea that if Mufumiro is from Busoga, he should, then why don't we just push for federalism? And we say, the people from this area should represent the people from that area, and those ones from the central, we go into the federal system. If it were under a federal system, I would gladly go for that. But if that was the case, we would start zooming into the details and say, okay, if the minister from this area is of this tribe, then we shall not allow. And I mean, it creates a very dangerous precedent. I
Mm,
think Uganda is for us all, and
mm,
and we should enjoy it. Whereas there is need for people to feel like, okay, me as a person from this region, I would better, represent. It doesn't mean that if is in Bosoga, is going to be best suited to represent the people's interest there. Maybe for the time he hasn't been there,
mm.
is out of touch. I you know I would. It would be like you were talking about the opposition doing the same thing the government does, but I think that's what you're calling for. Getting a polling officer from one region and sending him to the other, where and you make sure everybody, like, each. I don't know, but I find it very, I don't know which word to use. I find it very trivial, like to just zoom into and say, oh, just because my name is Ntambi, I should go back to Chamliwa. I grew up in Najanankombi.
Right, I get your point, and I respect your argument,
Sure.
but and sitting somebody who's been very vocal and very on ground with the people of Nakawa anyway, we shall see how that plays. It is still confusing me. Doctor, you have something to say?
No, I just want to say that thinking and that sentiment is kind of a derogatory statement, I should say, because it's not worth talking about, especially if one examined the current political scenes. I've been in Entebbe of recent, and I've read most of the posters out there are people from the West, and they're contesting. When you go to my particular home district, I think the Honorable Diana Mtasingwa, as the woman member of parliament, she alone, and she won them. Whether it was even there, I don't know. But at least she's now the legitimate member of parliament of that place. The issue of linking like um, political area of representation, I think it's the right discussion for us, just like the pre-current speakers said. But I know people guys themselves in umbrella of thinking that has no has its strongholds is only in the central and it's not in the peripheral. So why do not these people go to the peripheral? That's they hide in that umbrella, but the move, I think, to belittle the move of these two candidates, especially the Secretary General of the party and the deputy spokesperson, them contesting in areas where they do not come from. It is something that is politically engineered to bring them down, but when you put it on the general landscape of the country, it is not a discussion worth talking about. For an analyst, I mean, it is something that really is not worth it. Thank you.
Any other reactions?
Uh,
Yes.
Lynn, I wanted to say something about, we were talking about political parties, opposition parties organizing primaries and that, but we forget that these people are being harassed in the process, are being tortured, and some are arrested. Don't even forget one party their leader is in prison, Kizza Besigye and Obed Kamlegia for trumped up charges, and there is no recourse to that. The last time I checked, I think they also gave up on the process of getting justice and from the courts, and they boycotted. So all those things are going on. The NRM party wants to us to assume that there is elections going on, but on ground they are suppressing opposition, suppressing any competition. In order to have a real election, you must have competition, fair, free, and partisan judges. So we don't even have the basics on ground to talk about even a fair election. So that's whatever is going on is like a facade, whether we accept it as it is and just move on, but it's not even just a proper election. And talking about regions, I think people should be free to stand where they feel they have any chance, comparative advantage. But sometimes I think the undue influence makes that, unfair to some communities. Because I mean, if you say that, for instance, anybody who has money can buy land anywhere, we see people being displaced to those who don't have the means. And in that case, I saw like the NRM party primary league is headed by mostly people from Western Uganda. Maybe people who could afford to buy the vote. I mean, I say buying the vote, we saw how much Anita Mong paid to get elected. So now what is it? Is it a business? Is it still an election? So that's where we stand.
It is a business, I can assure you. It has become a business, and it's very lucrative. Okay, any other comments? And before we can conclude this conversation,
Lynn and
yes,
other
Frank.
follow yeah, thank you. You know, like the question of ask who is standing where, I think it doesn't count. As I told you, in an agile kind of environment, an environment that does not allow us to participate equally in the democratic processes of our country, we have also to think strategically. And one way of thinking strategically is you get suitable candidates for suitable positions and suitable places, and you deploy them accordingly. Because the bottom line is the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, which says every citizen has a right. So we moved away from tribal. Of course, that is what the NRM wants to keep fronting, but we moved away from that. We are considering ourselves as Ugandans. Like for me here, when people ask me, I always tell them I come from East Africa, and the place where I come from specifically is Uganda. So if we are to think in terms of patriotic way of looking at things, and as a new generation, I don't think a person standing where maybe their name suggests, like for me, people have always thought my name Kamhanda, maybe I come from Kabai. Others say I come from this place. So if you are looking at my name other than my ability, then we are lacking on some points. So the bottom line for me is would be maybe discussing the credibility of those leaders. But if again a party vetted and saw fit that this one is fit for this position, this one is fit for that. So I think we only have to wait for when the elections take place and what works out. But I don't want you to be like you are sounding a trumpet for NRM to indirectly the campaign strategy that a certain political party has put across. But otherwise, in general, we are Ugandans, and everybody can stand where they think they have an advantage to serve Uganda. Thank you.
Oh, all right, thank you indeed. I don't disagree with you, but my question was that they ought to be more a bit strategic, really, because if you want to spread your tentacles, I would expect you to have some bit of countrywide strategy to win maybe some sort of you know uh
Maybe because
well,
you have not yet looked at it. Recently, Loop was opening offices in Busoga. What else do you need?
right. Fantastic. I hear you. But well done. Indeed. Thank you guys for making time. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Albert, Francis, and Dr. Chisambira, as well as
Thank you.
Kareem. I appreciate you for making time, and I hope our conversations do make a difference in building this nation, because that is the whole idea. I thank you very much. We'll catch you again next time, and God bless you.